you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
Welcome to the Common Folk Podcast.
Look at your new hat. Sorry, I got to say that.
Oh, I got one. Can you see it on the camera?
Turn around a little bit. Look right there. Give him a thumbs up.
Hey.
There we go. The merch.
We got to get this podcast on YouTube.
Well, yeah.
How are we going to do that?
We need to get more. Well, I got a lot of the video content.
Yeah, for sure.
Just need to get it to our
But,
new
we want to
YouTube
go
person.
live? Isn't that a little freaky?
I think eventually we'll get there.
Yeah.
Where we get the camera set up the way we want. We'll just stream it.
I actually have a meeting set up with a guy that does this quite often, a live stream.
Nice.
Oh,
podcast.
like his
That's one
equipment,
of his,
or that's his
That's
gig?
his gig. So, yeah,
Ooh.
Kyle Video Productions.
We're going to have to rely on Elon and his internet out here.
Oh, that's a little dicey, though, out here.
No, it's pretty decent.
I mean, yeah, but sometimes your computer doesn't even work. Go.
Our dog is in the studio today, and she's having a little bit of a gas problem, apparently.
Guys, she was really sick last night, and
It's
still in her. It's, ooh, babe, it's so gross right now in here.
She's gross.
Poor
Your dog.
Poor Millie.
It's your dog. You picked her out.
You're the one that always has her with you, so I'm blaming you.
Here, let me get my coping mechanism.
Get that started.
There we go.
What do you got? What are you drinking?
This is the seasonal from Nebraska Brewing Company, and no kidding, this is my favorite beer, Wick for Brains. It's a play on their pumpkin spice ale.
So it tastes pumpkin-y?
Yes, and it's not just
Oh, can I try?
their claim to fame. Here
This
you go.
isn't the pumpkin one.
Oh, no, I don't need.
I haven't even had a drink yet.
Well,
I've
I
had
don't care, but then you're going to have to drink after me.
As long as you and Millie didn't share from the...
No.
No, but they don't just use extract or like pumpkin seasoning or flavoring. They actually use pumpkins when they brew this ale.
Okay. I like it.
It's a very short window of time when you can get it. And I like the guys out at Nebraska Brewing Company.
Yep.
And they support some of the stuff that I do on the News Channel Nebraska side. So love to give back and support those guys as well.
I got the pills, Nebraska pills today.
You've had that before?
This is kind of like a go-to, right? I mean, this is like a...
Yeah. That's Connor's, their marketing dude. That's his go-to. He drinks that every day. He's
good.
not an alcoholic. He just
drinks it.
high tolerance guy.
Okay, but again, you tried to get their seltzers. They were out. Gosh dang it.
When they deliver those out to supermarkets, you got to be right there because they come off the truck
I feel like
and
they
they
need
sell
to
like that.
Produce more.
Yeah, they do.
Sounds like there's a lot of demand.
I think so.
Okay.
And it kind of goes back to a lot of the products and people and businesses we talk to and talk about. Nebraska folks and Midwest folks, they want to support local. Like it's coming full circle to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
One other thing before we move forward on our last episode, we interviewed the guys from Certified Piedmontese.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, you said it right.
Yeah, I did.
Piedmontese.
I learned. The beef company, those guys are doing some really cool stuff, super interesting, all kinds of things that I never expected.
Yeah. Yep.
But they were very generous and put out a code, and the code is Farm Focused, FOCUSED 25 on their website. So if you use that, you get 25% off that beef. We will be using our own code.
Yeah. Did we hear how long that was good for?
They said they're going to run it for a few weeks.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't hear that.
Yep. So perfect timing for the holiday shopping, that type of deal.
Yeah.
And put together a box, of $100, get it for $75, right? Pick out all your favorites,
And they said free shipping over 150.
Yeah.
150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And super easy website to find, cpbeef.com. Go in there, build your cart, use farmfocused.com. No, farmfocused 25.
25.
Yeah. You can go to farmfocused.com.
You can get some merch there, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Farmfocused 25, so 25% off. So appreciate those guys for that and appreciate having them. So moving on, we've got Andy here, and one of Andy's many jobs is working for a company called NCN, and I'll let him elaborate on that a little bit. But we've got his buddy with him, and we were super interested in just broadcasting in general and how NCN kind of came about because, even like a few years ago when you and I met and you started doing some stuff with NCN, I didn't really know who the company was or the organization was. I always knew of like these, public television channels in Nebraska.
Right.
But I didn't really understand what NCN was doing. And now, fast forward a few years, I see it all over the place. Mm-hmm. So it's being grown like crazy. You guys are getting your hands in a lot of different things. So all that stuff that I said, we got a lot of things to touch on. If you want to introduce our guest and if you want to start digging into that.
So this is our sports content director, Brandon Aksamit, right?
Yes, the director of sports content and live events. If you want to get
See,
exactly,
Okay.
And he's a professor now at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, right?
That is true. My alma mater. They brought me back 10 years after graduation. I'm training
he
the next
looks like
generation.
a professor right now.
And
He's
what do you
like
teach?
tie.
Yeah.
Well, so I teach broadcast performance. That was what they originally hired me for. So it's a class where when you're on camera, you're performing. It's not necessarily natural. So we critique. I basically pick apart these kids as on-camera stand-ups and anchoring, and I say, hey, you're shaking a little bit. That's distracting. Oh, your eyes are kind of shifting. You really fine-tune their performance skills, and then when they graduate, ideally they have a really good demo reel. A demo reel is basically like a resume for broadcasters, where you go to an employer and you show them examples of your work. And so that is the purpose of that class. I also teach a visual communications class as well, where basically they get into groups, and all semester long they work towards a semester project where they present, where they basically, in essence, create a website that has all sorts of different types of interactive media, and it's a story they work on all semester long. So 3 classes this fall. That's the rundown. This is my second year doing it, and I enjoy it.
I was just going to say, do you like it?
I do.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun. It's like Andy. It's like doing a bunch of different things. So I'll do NCN stuff, and then I'll get teach for a day here or there. Then I'll call a game, and so it keeps me doing different things, which I enjoy. And it's also part of the angle is we're hoping that we can meet some of the next best and brightest from the J School. That's what they call it at the UNL. It's the College of Journalism and Mass Communications, and we sometimes get some people and then plug them into the News Channel Nebraska situation. We get some good talent out of there.
Yeah, and I've heard his class usually boils down to watching footage of me, like a past broadcast, and saying, see that? Don't do that.
Yes.
I was just going to say,
that is the 180.
I would have been really good and be like, don't do what she's doing. This isn't good.
Like Ricky Bobby, what do you do with your hands? Get out.
I
Get
don't
right.
know what to do. What do I do with my hands? Do I put them here? Do I do this?
It's a real thing. And we've seen it where we, interview kids like player of the game, and man, they just look like a deer in the headlights. It's like, no, just talk to me. Focus on me. Like, I'm asking you easy questions. No, it's different. When that red light's blinking, the camera's on. It's a different world.
I totally remember because I did DECA in high school. So we did a project, and it was for Children's Hospital. Anyways, whatever. We had to do a commercial a little bit.
Yeah.
I was the worst. We just kept having to redo it. I couldn't even remember a sentence. I was just totally that deer in the headlights. You just freeze up. So
And look at you now
there's no camera.
on the Common Folk podcast.
I mean, kind of, but
There's a camera. Yeah.
I know, but I don't know. So I feel for those kids.
So, Brandon, what you're saying is that journalism at a university is actually a real thing.
Yes.
Because when I went to school, all the journalism students, I was like, "Oh, come on! They're in and out of here. Get out of here! You guys just trying to get a check mark there." But this is a real thing.
It is a real thing, and the past 5 to 10 years or so, it's become even more of a real thing. We know when I was a senior was when we just joined the Big Ten. And when we joined the Big Ten, there's this thing called the Big Ten Network Student U, where they would then basically, Big Ten would give every school a broadcast, sort of pack where, they would send the cameras, then you would do a little mini production, and, someone like me, I would get an opportunity to announce a game for, on the website. It wouldn't be on the Big Ten Network, but it would be on Big Ten Network's website.
Stream, yeah.
And so then it provided this opportunity for all these kids across the nation at these Big Ten schools to call games, to get experience that you wouldn't normally otherwise get, to then hopefully get a job. And so the sort of evolution of technology now, how it's become easier to do a multi-camera setup or stream to provide these opportunities for students, is something that, to your point, lets people be broadcast journalists and actually get a degree where they get to actually apply the skills and then graduate with something.
I feel like in general, with social media, with YouTube, with all these streaming sites, the access that people have to be able to put themselves out there is so different than what it was 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That if someone wants to be serious about it, they really need to think about that, because back when we were in college, I would have never thought like, oh, I'm going to go sit, like if I was going to go take a journalism class, I would have thought like, okay, I'm either going to be writing for a newspaper or I'm going to be sitting behind the Channel 6 news desk or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's not very many people that get to do that. But where today it's like, man, grab yourself a podcast recorder and a camera and a couple of people, and now all of a sudden you can put real life stuff out there, and you better be good at it, because otherwise it's not going to go anywhere.
Well, and to take that even a step further, high schools now have broadcast departments, and they're doing streams of their high school games. And while like no, it's not necessarily the highest quality you'll ever see. Like the fact that these kids are getting to put their hands on cameras and call games. Like we have someone who's like a freshman in high school who's practicing for 4 years, knowing that they want to be a broadcaster before getting to college, where they're going to do 4 more years of getting the experience to be a broadcaster. When I didn't even know I wanted to be a broadcaster till I was like a junior in college. And so it's crazy now how much more opportunities are out there because of the technology, and it's only a good thing for the industry as a whole when you have kids starting at such a younger age, getting exposed and then learning and growing from it.
For sure. And in general, I like the idea of that there's so many more opportunities for people to get whatever that story is out, as opposed to, as the listener, only having a couple of different avenues that I can hear these stories.
Yeah. And there's, like you were saying, there's a lot of unique ways to go about it now. You can just launch your own YouTube channel. You can have your own podcast and turn it into, plus a YouTube channel, you know what I mean? And I think that's where, Brandon, I think it would be a cool story for you to run down. Like, News Channel Nebraska is its own very unique thing as well. I mean, it's a TV station, and our founder was buying radio stations left and right, but he was also buying actual television cable network channels. How does that all come together?
Okay. So I'm going to try to break this down in a way that listeners can understand. And I have a very unique perspective where the whole News Channel Nebraska genesis, I was kind of in at the ground floor of. People may or may not be familiar. You've probably heard his name, Mike Flood. He is the owner of News Channel Nebraska. And when I met him, he was running for governor. By all intents and purposes, he was going to be Nebraska's next governor. This was about 8 years ago. But he had to drop out of the governor's race. His wife had breast cancer. Good news, wife's okay, everything's fine. But he made a decision to put family first. He was the Republican candidate and dropped out to take care of his family. And when he did that, he decided to go all in on broadcasting, which was actually a big hobby of his. He had already owned 2 stations up in Norfolk, and he had for a long time. I think he bought them when he was in his mid-20s. So he's kind of a prodigy. He was very much a go-getter. And when he decided to go all in on this broadcasting thing that he had, I met him about a month or 2 later. He had just purchased a station in Nebraska City, a radio station. I met him. I was 2 years out of college. I showed him my demo reel, which I had. And he basically said, this is what we're going to do. I have this idea where I want to start a TV station. We're going to start in Columbus. Then after we start in Columbus, you're going to go there. You're going to start this station, and we're going to see what happens. And I didn't even know who Mike Flood was at that point. I didn't know he had just dropped out of the governor's race. I was looking for a job. I have a guy telling me I'm going to run a station, and it's going to be awesome, and I get to do sports. So I just said, sign me up. Sure, whatever.
Wow.
So what that turned into was me working in Nebraska City for 4 months before going to Columbus, where we started a station, which when I say station, it was a website. There was no TV license connected to it. We were a website where we basically put stories on a website called Columbus News Team, and we did these multi-camera high school sports broadcasts that were online only. A short time later, he bought a couple of licenses where basically we were over the air on an antenna in Columbus. So if you lived within 25 miles of Columbus, you could pick us up over the air. Then a few months later, he did the same thing in Norfolk. And then, within a year, he had basically purchased 4 TV stations: Columbus, Beatrice, Norfolk, and Grand Island was about a year later. So if you lived in one of those 4 towns, you could pick us up on the antenna within 25 miles of those antennas or of those transmitters. So a very limited distribution. And all the while, we are working very, very hard. We're putting out newscasts. We're covering several games a week, just kind of running around like chickens with our heads cut off, hoping that people are paying attention to what we're doing and watching. And all the while, Mike was trying to get us better distribution, the ultimate goal was to get us on Spectrum cable, where you actually, people are seeing you.
Right.
People
Yeah.
are seeing you because it's a statewide
Cable provider.
But the whole time, like while I'm kind of bouncing all around, but we were over the antenna. Mike's kind of working behind the scenes to get us on these cable providers. Maybe these smaller town cable providers might have picked us up here and there, but Spectrum was his big goal. Long story short, he had to go through a bunch of legal complications and battles, and 2 or 3 years later, we got statewide distribution on Spectrum, and that was probably 4 to 5 years ago, but things started falling like dominoes after we got on Spectrum. Since then, we've been put on Dish. We've been put out on Allo now, which is a local Nebraska company that's also statewide. So what started out as us just being on these antennas and for 2 to 3 years hoping people were watching has turned into us being in over 500,000 homes on statewide providers and on Dish. And to your point, that's why people have started to notice who we are in the past 2 to 3 years. Our distribution has grown, and with our growth, we've also been able to do higher profile events to the sports side. We've done now state track, we do the state basketball playoffs up to the championship game, we do the 6-man football state championship. So like with our growth, we were able to create deals with these other partners and get these bigger high profile games that people across the state care about and pay attention to. And then people are now starting to recognize News Channel Nebraska for who we are and what we do. So hopefully you're still following.
Yeah.
I
But
am.
so
Yeah,
was
it's
it
good.
always just sports and then just like what were you covering?
So we do news also. So
Okay.
the sports is kind of our bread and butter, and I don't want to say that. And Mike would be mad if I said that because news is very, very important.
It's his bread and
Yeah,
butter.
It's
He's a
my
sports
bread
director.
and butter. Yes. So we do the live high school sports, which is what makes us unique because no one else in really the state does what we do to the scale that we do it.
Okay.
There's public television that does the championships, and they do a great job, and they have resources, that are really, really good for them. We are different from them in that we are doing 3 to 4 to 6 games a week. Every single week, as opposed to having 2 to 3 busy times throughout the year where we're really focusing on high school sports. So, to that point, what was the question again? I'm talking about sports and
Yeah, and just what else you guys
Yes.
covered, even
I
when it
consider
started.
I consider us like Nebraska's own.
Yes.
I don't want to say Fox News or CNN, but it's Nebraska's own news. So it's from border to border. I mean, we got guys out in Scottsbluff. We got guys down in Nebraska City, up in Norfolk, which I would consider our headquarters.
Okay.
And then down in Beatrice, we have offices. Omaha, we have offices. Lincoln. So like you're getting news from all these different pockets across the state. So if you tune in for the daybreak broadcast every morning, you're going to get a really good snapshot and breakdown of what's happening in your state, in Nebraska.
Yes.
And of course, there's the national news is covered in there too. But it is so unique in that regard to where if you, let's say you're from Lincoln and you get on a public station in Lincoln over the airwaves, you're just going to get the Lincoln news, and then if something big happens here or there. News Channel Nebraska, every single morning, it is statewide. What's going on in Norfolk? Oh, my God, what's going on in Cherry County? What's going on out there at the wind farms? And it's something where Mike Flood, I mean, he's a mad scientist. I mean, okay. And he's created this network through his radio stations and his TV stations where he has boots on the ground everywhere reporting all the time. And that's why it's such a unique package as far as if you want an actual snapshot of good news of what's happening in your state, what should matter to you, you're not going to get it anywhere like you do at News Channel Nebraska.
So there's a lot of you on the ground.
Yes, there's a lot of us.
So Andy, he hit on something that I need to explain a little bit better. So Mike Flood Communications now owns about 12 radio stations in those locations. So there's 2 in Norfolk, there's 1 in Fairbury, there's 1 in Beatrice. We have 5 in the Tri-Cities, Kearney,
Sydney.
Yeah, Sydney,
Everywhere.
And
Yeah.
so he bought these stations that as radio stations that act and work independently as radio stations, but in each of these radio stations, he hires a TV reporter. And so you're based at the radio station, but if you're the TV person at that radio station, you're going out and you're gathering content, you're doing stories in the community, and then sending those stories over the internet back to Norfolk, so that Norfolk, then they will put together a statewide newscast from all of the different reporters who are at all of our different radio stations. And then that's how we get all our news throughout the day.
Okay, you just then compile it.
Yeah.
And then push it all out.
Gotcha.
So to being the mad scientist, Mike was very forward thinking in saying, well, it's tough to get hyper local content in these small, there's not going to be a TV station that just sets up shop, in Sydney and can be fully operational and functional and, make money and, keep afloat. But Mike said, well, if I buy radio stations, but I leverage that and also create TV content, we could have a way to have hyperlocal content in all these different places across the state. I have distribution now where we can push it out to the entire state, and everyone in the state can sort of have an idea and a flavor of what's happening everywhere, which he hoped would
Brilliant.
be appealing to viewers.
So the radio stations, do they play NCN content as well?
So the radio stations, do they play NCN content? I would say more NCN plays the radio station's content, because the radio station will act as its own thing, but, that's the other thing too. We have a system where all of our TV reporters and all of our radio reporters, we put all of our stories throughout the day into this system. And so the radio people can access this, and then it may be a radio story or it may be a TV story, but they can then make their newscast where they use the script from the TV story and they read that as a part of their newscast. So it's like a content sharing, multimedia type of thing where everyone's using and sharing everyone's stuff.
And we talked about it on our last broadcast out in Kearney, where as soon as you got done with that highlight package of Grand Island versus Kearney, which that's a big rivalry, two Class A schools, right?
Yeah.
And it was a great game. The radio station Nebraska City couldn't wait to get that highlight package so they could throw it over their radio station too. People in Nebraska City or Johnson Brock, they want to know what's going on out there. Are those teams from Grand Island, are they for real? Are they good this year? You know what I mean? And it works both ways. So people from Beatrice are tuning in. People from Norfolk are tuning in because they want to know, if they're really good, we might see them in the playoffs or something like that. It's kind of neat how that all comes together.
Right.
And it's something that's available now that maybe wasn't a few years ago.
And it's a forward-thinking thing, too, as I'm kind of talking about marketing, but so I'll make a sports schedule. And, to Andy's point, Grand Island versus Kearney. News Channel Nebraska is our TV station, and we'll run promos, and we'll push it out on News Channel Nebraska's Twitter handle saying, hey, tune in for this game. But at the same time, we're pushing it out on TV. We also have 3 radio stations in the Tri-Cities, so it might be me getting on the morning show with Doug Duda, who's the sports guy in Kearney, and we cross-promote our TV game by talking on the radio station's morning sports show that, so we're getting more people because we're using our own assets to further get our message out.
Yeah.
Are the radio stations, just because I'm curious, are they all the same genre, or does he's just running around describing ones that are
all different. US 92 is up in Norfolk, it's country, but then you have the Vibe in Kearney, which is
classic rock,
Tom
Petty.
Okay.
They're all designed and specific to their community and what works best for them.
Interesting.
So how did you get hooked up with
no
NCN?
Idea. I don't know. Well, once again, I have no idea how I got here.
It's just like a random hire, like this dude over here.
I was running around. Those was the Aksamit days.
Yep.
So I was running around from farm to farm up in northeast Nebraska.
Okay.
And Mike Flood caught wind of that, and I think he wanted to meet with me and see if I wanted to sell advertising too.
Oh.
And that's what I thought he wanted to meet with. So we had a great. I went to Norfolk. I met with them. We talked. Had a great conversation for about 45 minutes to an hour, and at the end of it, he didn't say anything. He didn't say if he wanted. He didn't tell me, the purpose of the conversation. I left it kind of baffled, I guess.
Oh, and you didn't ask?
No, I'm just hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you want to talk to me. Whatever.
Great,
dude.
bye.
Well, then he called me a day later, and he said, hey, you grew up on a farm. You grew up on a ranch. Yeah. I got this new TV station going, and I need an ag reporter. I'm I don't know anything about journalism. He goes, we got a summit coming up. Just go to that, see if you can figure it out. If it doesn't work, no big deal, whatever, man. I'm okay, I'll go. I do a pretty good job of saying yes, or giving it a shot at least. and went to the summit. Thought, all right, well, let's see what's going on. If nothing else, it can be a kind of a side gig, and that's what it was at the time. And my first few ag reports, I mean, if nothing else, was giving you the news of what was happening in northeast Nebraska, and it's just kind of snowballed from there, you know.
Do you look back at those first ones and like laugh at yourself and see how much you've grown?
Yeah,
or
those are
on camera.
Yeah, those are something else.
They're funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you were like instantly amazing or you like.
No, I still have no clue.
Oh, stop! Yes, you do. You're good.
But obviously, what I was getting better and feeling more comfortable, right? And then a few months later, after doing Ag News and supplying News Channel Nebraska with Ag News, Mike calls me kind of on a whim. It felt like, said, "Hey, I got this news station out in Grand Island, and it's going to be our sports station. And you played college football, right?" "Yeah." "All right, you want to do some sports broadcasting? I need a color analyst." I'm like, once again, Mike, I didn't go to journalism school. I have no idea. He goes, that shouldn't matter. No, you're good. I'm like, well, I'll give it a shot. And I'll never forget, Brandon, I tell you this all the time, or I have before. I felt so bad for Brandon because he was looking for a good color analyst. And I felt like when Mike introduced me to Brandon as his new color guy, I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I don't.
Okay, when you say color guy, what does that mean?
Well, okay, so yeah, that's how me and Andy met when we needed a color guy for Grand Island. I had been in Columbus for 2 years, and like Andy said, we needed a sports station where we're going to do all sports in Grand Island or the Grand Island area, which was like 4 or 5 broadcasts a week. And what I do is I'm the play-by-play guy. The play-by-play guy, I'll basically, I'll be the one who says what's happening. All right, it's 1st and 10. The quarterback throws it. He catches it. All right, pickup of 7. I kind of say what literally is happening. And then the color guy, which is, to Mike's point, you're supposed to usually be a former coach or a former player because you have that sort of special insight, where you know and understand the game, the X's and the O's, and then you provide that color, that added context.
Oh,
you kind
that's
of break
where that
it
comes
down.
in. Okay.
For the viewer, and so they can easily digest it. So I'll say what literally happens, then Andy will go, yeah, did you see this or did you see that? That's what happened, and here's why that worked, blah,
Yeah, defense was in the cover, too. Obviously, they just ran right up the seam between the two safeties. That's why that pass was there. Just got the soft spot of that defense.
Look at that.
Oh, right off the cuff.
And, we've been doing that for about 5-6 years now, so.
Okay.
So I think you talk about the mastermind, your guy that's putting this together.
Yeah.
And I think this is a story on any kind of business, really. What makes a leader really good is putting the right people in the right positions. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like they're not the one that's going to do all that stuff. Like he probably doesn't want to do all the things that you guys do, but he understands. I met this guy. This is where he needs to go. This is where he needs to go. And I'm going to keep talking to him until he wants to do it. You know what I mean?
He sees it, and then also the ability to empower those people that need to do the job that,
Sure.
Mike is super, super good at that. And, for me personally, I am grateful for, the opportunities that he has given me. And, while it always hasn't been easy, it's turned into something that I really, really enjoy and am proud of seeing where we started 7-8 years ago to where News Channel Nebraska is now. And so it takes us kind of a special person. I think Andy would be in that boat too, to sort of see it through and, those Grand Island days compared to where we are now, like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and then getting to that and, battling through everything, I think is something that's...
Well, it's just like anything. If it's easy, then everybody would do it.
Sure.
It's not as worthwhile, right? And yeah, there's also something to be said, learn as you go. Like, why are we so scared of not knowing everything up front? Mm-hmm. And with News Channel Nebraska, man, I felt like, especially in the early days, there was a lot of questions, maybe more questions than answers. Mm-hmm. But, man, you had, like you were mentioning, a few leaders at the top, and he just wasn't going to take no for an answer. He's like, no, I got this vision, and if we got to take a step back or go over here, do it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to do it. And, yeah, he allowed Brandon, he allowed me to be part of it. And yeah, it's grown into this thing where now we're doing state basketball, state track. What do we do? Like a double college broadcast. Back last Saturday, we did Doane in the morning or Kearney in the morning, Wayne State at night.
Yep.
Like who else is doing 2 college games, statewide broadcasts, and also putting our kids, our colleges on a pedestal like that,
Do you think is there like News Channel Iowa? I mean, is there something like this in other states? Have you guys heard or collaborated or no?
I can't confirm, but I would say 99%. There is no news channel Iowa. There may be something.
But other states.
I mean, so here's background too. So, like your local news station is a network affiliate. So, like in Lincoln, 1011 is a CBS affiliate.
Okay,
or,
yes.
an NBC or an ABC. So what that means is those channels, they'll have like a morning newscast where they need to fill an hour, like a noon newscast, then, a 5 and a 6 and a 10. Everything else, though, is network-wide programming where the powers that be say, this is what you're going to play on your channel, and this will play, and then you have these little windows.
Law and Order SVU.
Pockets
Law and
of
Order
time. Okay.
SVU,
Yep.
CDU. A Law and Order.
Yes.
X-Files.
And then you'll have your window where you're going to do your locally produced news. News Channel Nebraska is not network affiliated.
Okay.
We are independently owned, which means everything on our channel is our time, which is good. It's awesome because we can do whatever the heck we want, but the challenge is also, holy cow, you have a lot of time you have to fill every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to that point, this had never been really done before, and that's why, Mike had to go through all the legal hoops to be like, hey, Spectrum, you need to carry our channel, and here's this court case that I found in California where there's precedent, which is what basically happened to get Spectrum to carry us. And so this is like probably the only station in the country that operates how we operate, and it literally came kind of just out of nowhere from Mike's vision, basically.
Yeah.
And I always joke too. I'm like, what we have done, any other like person who used normal logic, this would be like a 30-year plan. This, how fast we've grown and what we have done in the time that we have done it, no one else would have even seen or attempted to do it to Mike's vision.
Right.
It truly is wild where we are year 8, from where we started, and
Yeah, he wasn't taking no for an answer.
no, and you couldn't have.
And a feather in our cap that I always kind of like to bring up, we're the only independent station that's picked up by, or at the time it was anyway, on Dish Network. And there was a ton of hoops for Mike to jump through, and he just said, okay, that's what I need to do, so he did it. That's what I need to do, so he did it. And now, News Channel Nebraska, if you ask for it on Dish Network, you can get it. And there's not another independent station like that on.
He's such a pioneer, it sounds like.
Oh, he's wild.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Dish Network and all that. I think watching TV and how people consume media and visual media has changed so much, and even for us in our own household, just being regular family. From where we had cable and we had satellite at one point, and then we got rid of that, and now it's all over the internet. And then YouTube started getting big, and now all these apps are coming up and all these kinds of things. We've always had an antenna because, there's always that. You can dial into some things if you want to. So all these different ways to watch all this stuff on your TV in your living room or your phone or whatever, that's all become big, obviously. Where do folks find NCN, and how do you watch it? How do you consume it?
Well, that's a great question for me because as part of my job as the sports director of sports content and live events, as I make promos every single week promoting every single one of our games, and what is a part of that promo is me listing on these videos that I edit how you can watch, and how you can watch changes based on which provider you have and where you live in the state of Nebraska. We have a really handy link on our website that says, here's your channel finder, enter in your zip code, then tell us who your provider is, and we'll tell you if we're on your channel there. So because we're independently owned, and because we're on all these different providers, we're not just hey, we're channel 10, 11 in Lincoln, go to channel 10 or 11 and you're going to pick us up. I could tell you right now, if we're in Lincoln, we're on Dish Channel 30, we're on Allo Channel 181, we're on Antenna 27.2, and if it's on Spectrum, it's 98 or 1233. So it literally, based on where you live, your channel could change.
And provider.
And your provider, yeah.
Who do you get your cable through?
Well, that's one of the things that I'm kind of getting at. I feel like more and more people, we even talked about this last night when we were hanging out with some friends, don't have a provider, so to speak, anymore. You know what I mean? That traditional provider. So then where do they go to get what you guys are doing?
Well, that was one of Mike's first things, too. Like, we were on Amazon Fire, the Fire Stick, before I even knew what a Fire Stick was.
Yes.
And we're on Roku, and now we're on Apple TV.
Okay, so there is
Yeah, there's
that.
so this is where we get
Okay.
into semantics, but we do have a free. So so you can watch on our website. There's a free stream if you watch on the computer. The antenna, depending on where you live, you could pick us up too. But we're on News Channel Nebraska has a free app on, to Andy's point, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku. The only caveat is if you're a sports fan, the sports games are blacked out on those free apps, and it has to do with contracts and rights deals that we have with other companies. So
Okay.
you could still watch our channel on those, but you would not get our sports
Oh.
live events. So it just depends.
Okay.
But that's the best and most
So-
clear way to answer that
So with
question.
those apps, because I'm just trying to run through our own personal scenario. So if we wanted to watch it, we have the Rokus, so we could download that app. We could watch
Yep.
the news stories that you guys are putting out. Can't watch sports. So if we wanted to watch the sports, what would we do?
You would either subscribe to our rights partner, which is the National Federation of High School, and you would have to do that through your computer.
Okay.
Or you would need to get Dish or Allo or Spectrum, or
Okay.
who's your local cable provider here?
I mean, we don't have cable, but I guess it would be
Windstream's around.
Windstream.
Yeah,
here.
Windstream.
Yeah, Windstream.
Yeah.
I'll have to check the channel finder on
Yeah,
that to see.
but
if
it would be so if you had Windstream, you'd go
Yeah.
to the channel there.
And that's the long and short of it. You'd have to either find a cable provider or Dish or watch it on one of those free apps. We are trying, so to your point of YouTube, this is still very much, we're internally trying to figure this out, but there are more and more people that are saying they only do YouTube TV.
Yep.
Yes.
And so we are looking into that being a
And
possibility.
we don't do that, but
We
we've
don't,
thought
but we know
about
a lot
it.
of people that do. Yeah, it's
and
becoming
really
more
enjoy
and
it,
more popular.
especially with
Yeah.
the sports and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So,
And I think, and I'd imagine based on all the things that you guys have talked about so far, that this is on the horizon. But like, it seems like everyone has an app anymore that's some kind of paid version or something. Like maybe someday that happens,
Right.
And it could be. I mean, I would pay for it if it's $4.99 a month or whatever, and I can watch all of the local Nebraska sports. Then that gets opened up. Something along
Yeah.
those lines, maybe.
That's interesting because things like the Daily Wire, that are private entities, they make no bones about it, and that's the only way that they do make money. Or the main thing is just they do a $3 a month subscription fee, and
Yeah.
that's how they make it work for them.
Yeah.
They're not a big, NBC or something like that.
Right. Because I think that's what, with the stuff that you've done in the past, Andy, and you'll tell us, hey, I'm doing this tonight or that tonight. We want to try to watch it. We have had a little bit of a problem trying to find it. So, but it seems like every time I hear something else about you guys, like, oh, here's another way to do it now. Here's another way to do it now. So I see it growing.
Yeah, and so going to your podcast with CPB for Certified Piedmontese, it's the same sort of thing where it's a little bit of an uphill battle because of the fact that we can't just say, oh, just go to Channel 8 wherever you are in the
Right.
state, whatever provider, it's always going to be here. So it's always constantly educating and kind of telling everyone, and pushing it out on social media. And we use all of our radio stations to push out promos saying, hey, do you live in Kearney? If this is your provider, this is your channel. Oh, if this is your provider, this is how you watch.
Yeah.
So we're constantly trying to push out, how to watch in what ways and make it as easily accessible as possible. But it is a little bit more difficult than just saying, here's our channel number.
Right, for sure. So that's a great explanation of the company and kind of how it's been coming up and what you guys are doing. For you two specifically, what do you two spend most of your time doing together with NCN?
Well, us together, we're calling games 1 to 3 times a week, depending on the week. But Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays are always our broadcast days, company-wide. And depending on the day, we could have, 2 or 3 different trucks out. But we are what you would call broadcast partners. We are calling sports pretty much 9 to 10 months out of the year together.
Football, basketball, a lot of baseball over the summer.
Yep,
That's a lot
Corn
of fun.
Belt League.
Yeah.
okay. So do you guys have nicknames?
We don't
think
really.
so.
No,
It's just it's
you're
Brandon
not
and
like-
Andy.
Yeah,
Okay.
We don't need to go there.
Oh, okay.
So we don't
Okay.
do the nicknames because you may or may not know this. We rock the gold jackets. We have gold blazers, to throw back to
Boom.
the whole Monday Night Football in the 1970s.
Okay.
Okay.
So that was another one of Mike's ideas as a brilliant marketing plan. Hey, wherever we're doing a TV game, our announcers wear these, yellow jackets, and everyone associates News Channel Nebraska with that. So that's
Yeah.
our claim to fame.
I mean, and it's like It's like Crazy Like a Fox, right? Because nobody wanted to wear that ugly yellow jacket. But
Does it fit you, or is it like
course.
oversized?
Yeah,
and
it fits
it's like
great.
too big. Does
it
it have
totally
the?
But yeah, it totally worked.
So
Like
there's us at state
it's a-
basketball a year.
Okay,
It's-
all right.
it's
I
turned
gotta
into
go
Oh,
a
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
turned
Yeah.
into a thing. Like wherever we show up, like, oh, I love those yellow jackets. Like, no, you don't.
Does
But
it have
anyway,
the shoulder pads? Like it makes your shoulders look bigger
No shoulder
too?
pads.
No. Okay,
shoulder
you rip
pads.
those out.
Yeah, don't need those.
Okay.
That is kind of fun though, and that's smart
Yeah,
because
it's a marketing deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's an immediate visual.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes the NCN guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we've actually I've seen it where others have kind of moved to that as well, where they're using like a zany colored jacket. I'm like, you're taking a page out of Mike's book there. You know,
Yeah.
that's our thing looking that bad.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I always think is it hard if someone's yakking in your ear while you're trying to talk? I would have a hard time with that. Do you guys have
What do you mean?
like someone
So,
telling you what to say or
Right.
what not to say?
and also when we're doing a broadcast, there's a little bit of an echo. There's a little bit of delay. So like when we bring someone up to put a headset on and get on a live broadcast
Yeah.
with like an AD or something to talk about his school or his new facilities, whatever, that's, I think, is the toughest part for them, is that echo. But then you also do have the producer in your ear
See,
talking.
that would no.
and
That's what you're
I-
talking
yeah,
about.
I couldn't do that.
that was, and for me, like, because I don't know any other way, right?
Okay.
But we had a pretty colorful producer our first year, right? Director. And I mean, he was one of those no BS type of guys, you know, but he liked to have fun. He's kind of like a around the bend guy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
You
TJ.
know?
Yeah.
TJ. And so he would be using, let's call it colorful language over the headset and hollering at me for being too loud, or, you know, telling Brandon he's being too soft on this guy, or what, you know, whatever. Just, and once in a while he'd just start singing.
Yeah, it's those
Yeah, you
several
just-
songs sometimes.
Yeah, he just
What?
starts. Yeah, like while we're trying to call a game, and you know, I'm trying to cut my teeth here and figure things out. But I feel like being thrown in the fire in that environment set me up for so much success. Because like if you could survive that in year one in your first wave of broadcast, and I'm going to tell Aaron Trout, like he cared about the broadcast first and foremost. He really did. And it also kind of opened the door for me to kind of like grow into my own, because shortly thereafter, after I kind of picked up on, okay, so this is what's happening, I would always, one point of every game that first year in basketball at Grand Island, I would try and make Brandon and Aaron laugh. Like I wanted to say something so ridiculous and off the wall, and if I could get them both to go, I knew I did good. You know what I mean? And it's tough to do because, you know, it's a live broadcast, so you can't say curse words and this and that. But no, it was a unique, like everything with News Channel Nebraska was a unique experience, and it like you had to figure it out as you go, and the more you did it, the better you got at it. And we got into this groove where it really did turn into like a well-oiled machine. I'm not saying it was the best broadcast ever, but people that watched it, consumed it, they enjoyed it. And it wasn't bad. Like, you're a great play-by-play guy, you propped me up, you carried me, you helped me figure things out, and I knew what I was watching. Like, I know sports. You know, I just need to, you know, figure out how to relay that on a live broadcast.
Well, and to take what Andy's sort of saying a step further, you know, the producer is someone who is in the truck, and the person in the truck is communicating to all the cameras, telling them what shots he wants. He's also saying, you know, what graphics need to be played, if we have a sponsorship coming up, if we're going to commercial break. So those are the types of things that Aaron, in this case, would be communicating to us, in addition to the singing, you know, and yelling every once in a while. But like, you know, not, and to Andy's point, not everything always happens smoothly. So there would be times, you know, where, you know, I have a button that's called the talkback button that mutes my mic and then allows me to talk to the producer. And if something's like going on, I could like be having full on conversations with Aaron in between me calling games. And, you know, if something really bad was going on, like Andy would have to take over and start, you know, talking
Doing
for a while more
play-by-play
than a
in
color
color.
person should talk, while I'm like on the talkback talking to the producer while we're trying to call a game. So like, it's just interesting when you really look kind of behind the scenes, what all goes into putting on a TV broadcast, and kind of learning to multitask and manage and compartmentalize and go from calling a 3-pointer to the next second, you know, speaking a million words a minute to Aaron really quickly so that you can fix whatever problem may or may not be happening. And
Yeah.
And have you ever forget to hit mute?
I almost got in trouble once, but I mean, that wasn't my fault.
It's not about forgetting to hit
Let's
mute.
just blame everybody else. No kidding.
Yeah, Aaron.
Well, and there is something too that, if it's not set up appropriately, like the talk back, you could like think, and this happened a couple of times too, like where nothing bad was said, but like, you think the talk back is set up right and you're hitting the talk back button, but sometimes it can come across program what you're saying if the cords aren't hooked up appropriately when you get on site. So there's a couple of times where like, I think I'm talking to the producer, and I am, but it's also, during a commercial, if we're talking, people could hear my voice. Mm-hmm. So, you have to get those types of things worked out too, because that could be a bad scenario.
I got caught with the hot mic once, pre-game, but I
you?
wasn't that bad. I wasn't NC-17. I was just R-rated, I'd say.
I just always think of
it was
Anchorman.
probably PG-13. It was probably just PG-13 when you really
PG-13.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to that point, for putting my professor's hat on, it's if there's ever a mic, the rule is to just not say anything that could be remotely interpreted as bad.
The gun world. It's like,
yes,
if there's a gun, it's loaded.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
No matter what, it's loaded. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but this was pregame, and they were asking me to talk to him, and we've always joked back and forth, from the booth down to the truck. Like, we've always done that. And, I like to lighten the mood, like, guys, we're doing this to have fun, and first and foremost, let's have fun. And when you're doing that, especially with guys that are kind of grouchy, it's early in the morning, whatever, sometimes you got to say, words that you can't say over the air, and that's what I got caught.
Well, it was like somebody gave you a gun and like, it's not loaded.
It's not loaded.
And you're like, all right, cool.
Well, I'm not going to shoot anybody, but here, let me wave the crowd.
You were like, oh, this trigger looks neat. Let me pull this.
Yeah. Oh, I just went, No, but
nice.
Now, and I don't know if it's made me any better or whatnot, but like just in my everyday language, I straight up just do not cuss as much as I used to. I think that just happens throughout time anyway, for a lot of folks.
A lot of folks it gets worse.
It does get worse?
Yeah.
Like,
I think I've probably gotten worse.
I've had to get better,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Your
Well,
mic
yeah,
is
you're
always
proficient.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, the mic's freaking on.
So what about on that particular topic, what would be like the most embarrassing thing that you've ever done or what has ever happened to you on the air?
I'm going to have to think about that because I've actually been pretty lucky with which is not to say that I'm the most amazing broadcaster ever. You
didn't rip one or
you
something?
It's probably that you just don't want to remember them and you suppressed them.
That could be.
You probably had a couple.
Give me a second to think.
Andy, you got one?
Well, I have one that was, right away I knew it was bad, and I felt bad about it. And we were doing a Doane College game, and it was getting to be the third and fourth quarter. A game had kind of been decided, so a lot of sophomores and freshmen were entering into the game. And this youngster from the opposing team, freshman, came in. He was from California, and he caught the ball, and he went to go make a move, and he just got blown up. He just got blown up by this big old linebacker from Doane. And I go, oh, welcome to NIA level football, and then just cut right to break. I'm like, well, no, I wanted to backtrack that, and right away, didn't someone like tweet at us like, oh, what a scumbag, I'm like, no, I didn't want to say that. I wasn't trying to say it like that. It just it cut to break on me. You know what I mean? But
we had. Do you remember when? God, what was that? 2-3 years ago when we got all those hogs?
Okay, yeah.
And I think you had taken some pictures and did a story about it. It must have been for the agriculture thing.
Yeah, it was a news bit for the ag news.
Yeah, so it was at the time when the processing facilities were so full that guys were literally like throwing hogs in the ditches.
Like 300,000 hogs in Minnesota alone were euthanized.
Yeah. So a bunch of guys, we found a local farm to go and buy some of these hogs because otherwise these guys didn't have anything to do with them. So we went there, got the hogs, brought them back to my buddy's place. We got some photos. We shared the photos with you. I think you might have even seen them. And then you did that story.
Yep.
And you shared it with us, and we got in there. We got to looking at it, and one of my buddies started getting hell from the viewers because they were like, "Look at that guy! Look how sweaty he is! Like his shirt was soaked." They were like, "He's sweating all over that meat.
He's dripping. His face is dripping on the meat.
Yeah. And we were like, "Dude, this isn't going to, like, I think I had commented on it. I was
Right,
like,
yeah.
this isn't going to the grocery store, buddy.
Right.
This is going in our freezer. So,
Back off.
yeah, it's going to be all right.
It was one of those deals where they didn't watch or actually understand the story being told.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
you guys were privately doing this. That footage was from your garage, I think.
Yeah, it was my
Where-
buddy's shop. Yeah.
Yeah. Turned into a slaughterhouse there,
Right,
you
yeah.
know, for that afternoon. And yeah, it was not going to the local grocery store. You weren't giving it to a prison or to a school or something like that. You guys were consuming it. But no, man, that one dude, he was fired
was
up.
worked
He
up
was
about
fired.
that.
And then your buddy, he's like, that son of a gun.
Yeah, he got fired up on it too. Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That has been an ongoing joke ever since. So if we talk about like we're going to do anything, we're like, make sure the sweaty guy stays out of the picture.
Get Sweaty McGee away from the meat.
So that sort of reminded me of one, and I wouldn't say this is super, like this isn't terrible. This isn't like a boom goes the dynamite type scenario, but it was that Millard Lincoln North Star game we did about 2 years ago for basketball when there was like 4 or 5 D1 players on the 2 different teams, you know, a really high profile game, packed house at Millard North, and, you know, we were killing the broadcast. This was actually fairly recent, which I don't know if is good or bad, but you know, I thought it was a great broadcast, and it probably was. And, you know, tons of people are tweeting out about it, you know, like state sports media people and stuff, because it has a lot of human interest. And Sean Callahan was tweeting about it. And someone during the broadcast tweeted at Sean Callahan, is like, hey, we're watching. Who's the girl calling the game? She's doing a great job. Which I was like, okay, like, nothing wrong with girl broadcasters. I'm just not one. And you're obviously referring to me. And so, like, I didn't know if it was a joke or if he actually thought I was a girl. So I you know, during the game, which isn't, you know, standard procedure, but I also operate our Twitter account, and I'm tweeting out game updates while calling the game, and so I saw that, and I had to block that out while calling the game, like wonder what was going on there. But that was that's probably the one that sticks out to me, I guess.
Yeah.
He's had some voice coaching since
I
then.
have,
Now he's brand.
I can tell, yeah.
Well, so
Deep
yeah,
3.
I'm not like what you would call like a normal. I don't have the broadcaster voice. I actually am a singer, and I'm a tenor 1, which is like the high tenor. So like I sang in college and in high school. So like I've had to really work to just speak in a lower register, which is still not that low. But I guess maybe it wasn't his fault that he thought I was a girl. Maybe, you know, maybe that's just
And I don't
just
have
how
a-
it goes.
I don't have a radio voice either. It just kind of works.
Yeah.
I'm
You know,
not
like we
so
just make it
sure.
work.
I'm not so sure about
I
that.
don't know.
do.
When we started this podcast, I wanted all of us to have nicknames,
Yeah.
and my first nickname for you was Radio Voice.
Look at that.
Yes,
right.
you do have that
All right,
voice.
there we go. Okay.
Because it's because like it's like the up and down of the volume and like
Inflection, it's called.
Yes.
there you go.
You
It's
gotta vary the
yes, he's
inflection.
got
Yeah, I
the
don't know what that
inflection,
is,
all
but-
these
Professor
kinds-
voice, yeah.
You got all these kinds of things.
You do got to do that. You know, you got to
Yeah.
break it up. It adds a little something
yeah.
to it.
I will say though, in the little bit that we've been doing this, we're I don't know 30-something episodes in now.
Yep.
I don't know what 6 months ish something.
Mhm.
I've learned a lot about this equipment, kind of how things sound, and I've always been a sound person. Like a key into sounds. With Brandon on here, like what's coming through the mic and what I'm listening to totally sounds like that's what should be happening. So you must have it
Hey,
figured
I'll
out.
take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hear a girl voice.
No,
Okay,
but that's not what I'm
good.
saying. What
Oh.
I'm saying is like
Oh, he's
the
keeping his level perfect. He's
the
right
clarity,
here.
yes,
he's not
exactly.
eating the mic, but he's right where he needs to be. He's sounding so good.
100%. Like you obviously know what you're doing. I feel like the rest of us, every time we do these things, it's like we're just freaking winging
I know.
it.
I'm like,
happening.
oh wait, I was too close. I gotta go. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Brandon,
it's
you
totally
got
working.
it.
Hey, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
10 years in, I'm hoping I'm getting close.
So we would recommend your course. I would
Okay.
say.
There
Right.
you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Down at
maybe,
Lincoln.
Maybe you guys, I have guest speakers. Maybe we bring you in.
No,
Mm.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Hey, you got some ties with UNL, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Back in the day.
There we go.
Back in the day.
No, I think we just opened another door here, Brandon.
Okay.
Masterclass. And I can be your color analyst on your masterclass.
All right. The capstone. Capstone. Yes.
Could you guys ever switch? Could you do color and you do play-by-play?
Oh, God.
Would that be hard?
I could do it, but it would like it's not like you can't just do it. So it would be significantly worse broadcast with me being color. I mean, I
Okay.
I played, but like I'm so practiced and knowing how to do play-by-play that you can't just hop in and
Just wouldn't
and
be
It's
give
not.
it a try.
natural.
No,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be. And
Yeah.
to that
I've,
point,
I've done that before, and
too.
I'm terrible. Like it's a whole nother thing.
Okay. It's its own beast.
It's two different skill sets, but also like talking about Andy and myself who've been doing this for 6 years. Like there's the whole synergy and the chemistry that like you develop that you only really get from the reps of working with that person over and over again. And so like the really good broadcasters can say, all right, Andy's on vacation this week. We're bringing another color guy. And, I should, in theory, be able to still do just as good of a job. And I could still call the game the same, but being able to play off one another and understand when the next person is going to talk and how they're going to do it, it's all sort of these sort of added X factors that you have to account for when you're two people in a booth working together.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing down and distance, and he's going over the clock, and he does a phenomenal job of, when a pass is made or a long run, he can just rattle off like, oh, a 27-yard run. Like, I'm not watching that. I'm straight up saying, like, how did that happen? What blocks happened? That's what I'm looking at, and I'm not tied up into the yardage and the time. And so, like, my whole mindset would have to change, and also just what I'm talking about would have to change. And I've had to, just in a pinch, do the play-by-play stuff. And I know it's not as good, right?
Yeah, you had to Grand Island at Kearney girls and boys doubleheader. I got a flat on I-80 on the way there, and so I had to get towed. I was about 30 miles out from Kearney, and so Andy got to call the girls game by himself, so he had to not only be play-by-play, but he didn't have anyone in the booth with him, so he just had to call the whole game by himself.
So at that point, do you say something, or you just act like it was planned?
I ask myself questions, and it's really easy because I already know the answer. So I just kind of prop myself up, like, "Oh, that's a great take there, Andy." No, but that's where our producer would be like, "All right, you got." Tell him the score. He was giving me reminders of stuff that Brandon just does off cuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that announcers, like when you listen to sports, it seems like everything's so serious. Like it's so structured, and you guys have painted this picture. Like it's structured. You got to do this. You got to do that. Mm-hmm. They're reminding you of these kinds of things. But there's no way that humans live in that super serious space all the time. Mm-hmm. So what is going on behind the scenes?
Well, yeah, when that talkback button is lit up, I mean, sometimes there is like a, wow, what was that ref looking at? How could that, but you'd never say that on the air. Or like, you're not going to put a coach or somebody on blast, especially in high school. Like I have a tough time with that because they're actually doing it. They're taking the time to mold these kids into young men, be part of it. It's not just about Saturday lights or Friday night lights. So I kind of have a soft spot for the officials and for high school coaches and for high school athletes. Like they're not college athletes, they're not pro athletes, so we don't need to put them on blast for missing a block or not making a tackle. So like and it works well for me because I really try to be positive anyway, so like let's focus on the positives. Let's turn that into, oh, what a great run, rather than what was that bonehead doing? He should have made that tackle. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like where we're at in our space, it works really well because that's what people want to hear. That's what people want to see anyway. Like there's enough garbage, and I'll call it that, garbage out there where we're just a quarterback in the NFL will have a bad day, and we'll just pile on that guy.
Yeah.
It's like, you have no clue. Mm-hmm. You have no clue what it takes to be an NFL quarterback, but you can just throw a judgment out there.
I've always said that about fans. I know I've said this to you 100 times. Like, people sitting there, like, what do they call it? Like armchair quarterbacking, right?
Monday morning quarterbacks.
Yeah, like they're sitting there, like, saying this and that about these players. And that's always been my thing is, like, if you can't do that yourself or you never could have done that, quit talking about it, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know.
Yeah, what gives you the right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really, my father was a basketball official, football official. He has this 25-year plaque with the NSAA for both football and basketball, one of the few men to actually have both of those. So the one thing that I've always done, and I think it's kind of unique even to our company, I'll go every game, I'll go and get the name card of the officials, and I'll give them a shout-out on air. because they deserve that.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a shortage of NSAA officials, and you see why. Kids
yeah.
are yelling at them, coaches are yelling at them, fans hate the refs, all this stuff. It's like, knock it off, people. You know, if this stays that way, we're not going to have officials. If we don't have officials, we don't have high school sports.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Like, what are you bitching about?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they didn't sign up to be a football official so they just wouldn't have a Friday night and
Right.
to screw Grand Island over.
Right. Yep.
You know, they're not trying to do that.
We played a game down here yesterday, and 6th grade, 5th and 6th grade, right?
Yep.
5th and 6th grade boys
Football.
Football.
Yep. There's a couple officials in from out of town, and hosted the out of town team, and the out of town team was immediately like just losing their stuff. The coach was just pissed, and he's yelling at him and stuff. And that ref came over to our sideline. I was running the chains, and he was like, "This guy doesn't realize this is my Sunday. I don't need to be here."
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
So
And
true.
and that's how he was thinking. You know, he's
Yeah.
like, "I'm here trying to support the kids and
Doing it for the kids.
yeah, and be a part of this." And this
Yeah.
guy's losing his mind on something
Yeah.
that doesn't even make any sense. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what your initial point, like, stop talking. You know, you're not
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah.
Okay, if you want to have a seat at the table, you go become
Yeah.
a certified official.
Right,
you
right,
know?
right, yeah.
You go through the rigmarole and understand what's happening here.
Yeah.
You know, like, and, you know, I have a unique perspective because my father was a great man and he was always involved in youth sports, so much so to where he became an official like that. And it was all because from a very wholesome place, he wanted to be part of it. He wanted to give back to it. It's not about screwing over the visiting team. We did a broadcast, you know, I won't even mention the town, but right away, I mean, play one, the opposing team's assistant coaches up in the crow's nest next to our broadcasting booth was all over the officials and claiming that, oh, they don't like us because we're from out of town, we're from the metro,
Oh,
blah, blah,
geez.
blah. And I'm like, this son of a gun.
Yeah.
You know, like I was getting burned up.
Takes
you know?
so much from it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You know, and I get it. Like, I'm coming from the other side.
Yeah.
You know, I'm coming from the official side.
Yeah.
You know.
And we've talked, you know, we've talked to a couple of coaches on this podcast, you know, people who do it right. There's a lot of good folks out there doing the right things, but man, you get those ones and it's just like,
Yeah. And they're the ones that kind of hang with you, too.
yeah, right.
I mean,
yeah.
Johnson Hobbs is one of the coaches
Yeah,
we had on
yeah.
here, you know, with the Corn Belt League baseball coach. I mean, and he's he's a deep thinker.
Yeah.
So he's not just thinking about the call that happened on the field. He's thinking like, all right, why did that official blow that call? You know, like he's
What
trying to,
happened to him at 2:00 today?
yeah. I mean, but he's taking it to the next level, but he's not flying off the handle, running
That's
out there and
smart.
getting
That's
in his
so
face.
smart though, because this is one of the things that I have also always said is officials, you know, referees, umpires, all these people. That's what to me makes the game, any of the games, so unique. That's why I hate replays. You know, where they can
The instant
reverse the
replays.
calls and all
Yeah.
that, because I think so much of the game is that referee, that official, them making that decision.
in the
Right.
moment.
And like you just said right there, you know, Johnson Hobbs thinking, man, what did that guy have the wrong lunch or something, and it threw off his, you know,
Yeah,
his,
I mean, that could
like
be.
should he have had
Yeah.
noodles instead of that shrimp salad or you know whatever, like, because that's what influences the game, and yes, sometimes unfairly, sometimes not, whatever, but that's how you have to play, man. You're dealing with people.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
it's not black and white.
Yeah.
That's what I love about sports. Sports is so much people. There's so many lessons to be learned. It is not black and white. And to me, like the replay thing that tries to make it black and white. you
Yeah,
know?
it takes the mystique out of it a little bit. I would
Yeah,
say, you know,
yeah.
an obscure article that was in one of Nebraska's more famous newspapers, the Omaha World Herald. It was in the late '90s, and it was about Dr. Tom Osborne, Coach Osborne for the Huskers. A lot of people don't know, but he has his doctorate in psychology.
Totally makes sense.
And one of the things that would drive the opposing coaches just insane was how he would always get the call. He always got calls, especially at home. Well, there was a reason behind that, and it was because for 3 quarters, he would never yell at an official, but he would pull him off to the side and be like, hey, I think you might have been held on that one, but maybe you can get us next time. That's how he would work officials.
Yeah.
He would not yell at them. He would not get aggressive with them, but he would he would use real-time psychology.
Yes.
And he'd become their buddy,
Yeah.
and that's how he would work over officials. And my God, it would come back to him tenfold.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, a guy would be 3 yards out of bounds, catch a pass, 1st and 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Nebraska had an edge. It really did. I'm a Cornhusker fan, but man, we got some calls.
I believe
But they
it.
were earned. Like what you're saying, on that front, they were earned. And also, we had a success from 62 on through 2002
Yeah.
to also back that. So
Yeah.
you had a genius at work at the coach who was he wasn't writing officials. And I don't even want to say he was like manipulating them. No, he was treating them like humans.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew how to deal with people.
Yeah.
And that's the part of the game that I love, it's people dealing with people. And there's not a person in this state or anywhere around here that knows that guy that wouldn't say he was a good dude.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The one of the coolest things that I think is all of his former players, when you ask them about Coach Osborne, they don't talk about football. They talk about what a great guy he was.
Yeah.
What a great mentor he was.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
no,
interesting.
no, he's a
Yeah.
football coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we got off a little tangent
Yeah.
there, but that's interesting because it is in the arena that you guys deal with. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you guys are dealing with the coaches, you guys are dealing with the referees, the umpires, the officials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat thing. So
Do you guys really like each other off the mic and camera?
Sure.
I can't speak for Andy, but I do. I like Andy. I think he's a pretty swell guy. So.
Okay.
Swell guy. No, Brandon and I think we got a really good chemistry, and it was earned once again. Like we've done a lot of games together, especially in year one. We're just kind of thrown into the fire there, doing minimum 4 games a week together, basketball games.
Yep.
Girls, boys. But no, to that time, a really good relationship has kind of blossomed and
Yeah.
grown from that point.
And you can tell, but I had to ask that. So yeah, I know you guys like each other.
Well, and it's kind of like too. I mean, like you're in the foxhole together. Like you're battling through things. You've seen some good times. You've seen some bad times. And you both have the same goal of, well, what do we want? We want to succeed. We want to put on a good broadcast. We want to serve our viewers. And so we're aligned in what we're trying to do, and we also enjoy what we do. And so it makes a good team when everything is
Yeah.
all on the up and up, and we're working towards the same goal.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
100%.
and when you're nice guys. I actually met his mom and dad this weekend. That was nice at
I went to
Jared's
a
tailgate.
Yeah, I went to a tailgate that I didn't even go to.
Nice.
Oh,
What's
She's
up
like-
with that?
so
Marge, right? Marge.
Yeah.
She's
So
like,
they
oh my
invited
God.
you.
Yeah, Andy invited. See, that's how nice of a guy he is. He invited me to his brother's tailgate, even though he wouldn't be there. And then I was walking around, and Marge, oh my gosh, it's Andy's broadcast partner.
Aw.
And she waved me down, and I talked to Marge and Neil, and I think we may or may not have planned a trip up to Lynch at some point. Emily
All
was
right,
there, and we
there we
talked
go.
about going
Do-
to hang out in Lynch. So
Do some bass fishing,
Yes.
maybe a little pheasant hunting or something. There we
you know,
go.
show me how to
That
do
sounds
it.
fun.
Yeah.
I can catch a bass. The hunting part, I'll need.
Ben's been pheasant hunting up there.
I have.
All
Yeah.
right.
It was fun. We had
That's
a great
good
time. Yeah.
Come on up.
And also at that was at the same tailgate that they spotted the Common Folk T-shirt.
Yes. Yeah. One of my brother's good buddies' neighbor just wearing a Common Folk T-shirt.
Pretty
right
awesome.
on, man. Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Cool. Cool. Well, man, this has been fun, guys. I don't know if is there anything else to add?
I don't know. Do we have any other stories to share?
Any other
Is that
zingers?
just kind of. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. I could dig it up on my phone real quick. The the one drop from a broadcast. It wasn't either of us, but I think it might be one of the funniest drops
Oh yes.
ever
Yes.
to be put out on a broadcast.
It was an independent contractor announcer.
So it wasn't one of us, but
It was not.
Mm.
It was not.
what do you mean drop?
So like little cuts.
Okay.
You know.
But he said something he shouldn't have.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. It just, words have different meanings.
Oh,
And you can take
yes.
it one way or another.
And he said something. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't even want to say he said something wrong. I wouldn't throw him.
I mean,
under
if
the
your
bus.
mind's in the gutter, then
Exactly.
That's on
okay,
you.
then
Yeah.
that's on you.
Yeah,
That's-
that is on you.
He didn't say it. You're just thinking it.
All right, so I think I can.
And I think this is probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
This is like way back in the
Okay,
good
you
old
got it?
days.
Yeah.
You're gonna play it.
Should we do it?
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
All right.
And easy for me to say. I don't have these guys coming in my face.
So the laughing was our producer. So he took a
God.
video of it and sent us that video. So like the laughing wasn't coming across program, but that is what the announcer did say.
Well, and what he was talking
reference
about was
to-
the pass rush. You know, these defensive ends and linebackers were getting to the quarterback, and they were up in his face. They're rushing him pretty hard.
They were.
in
You know,
his
he just
face.
got caught up in some words there, and he said something that was inadvertently hilarious.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
And the point is, it is not easy
There you
to
go.
do what me and Andy
That's
do.
how you wrap it
is
up.
hard.
That's so
Yeah.
true.
So hard.
Yeah,
Gotta watch those words.
Pat
You
ourselves
do.
on the back.
Yeah.
But so for the movie Anchorman, so obviously they spice it up for a movie, but some of that stuff is probably real. I mean, funny, off
Yes.
camera,
Here's what I always
ad lib.
You know how like in all those movies where it's just chaos behind the scenes,
Yes.
and like in the newsroom where they're just the office is crazy and papers are flying
Yeah.
everywhere. That really is how it is.
Okay.
Like there's a level of chaos.
Because you're about to go on. Oh my God.
Well, and it has to happen. It's live. That's an element to it. And for News Channel Nebraska, I mean, we're trying to deliver news, from the east side to the west side, north, south. Like all these things have to come together for, the A block, the B block, the certain parts of the broadcast. And with that, inadvertently, is going to be a little bit of chaos.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, you have to be able to manage your emotions and like stay calm and cool under pressure at all times. Like, because like things will go wrong, and like how you react to how things go wrong can have a really big impact on everything else.
Real quick, before we sign off, one of our, I would call it rougher broadcasts. And I don't even remember what broadcast it was, but it was a football game, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong, right? And you and I were stressed, and you were messing over here, so I would have to cover for this and that and do a little more talking than what I probably should have been doing. But situation called for it, right? And but it was a good game. And I'm driving home, and my dad called me, and he's like, "Oh wow, what a great game, guys! That was just, you guys did spectacular, this and that." And my feeling was, I was down in the dumps. I was thinking, God, man, we really dropped the ball in that one. And the truck this, Brandon and I that. And no, to the viewer, we still put on a pretty good.
They didn't know.
They did not know.
Good.
So,
So you did your job.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Cheers to that.
Mike would be proud.
He would.
Yes. Yes.
Well, this was enlightening. Thanks for
Be.
coming.
It was.
I'm glad.
Fun.
Sharing.
It was fun.
Yeah.
So let's close it out with just a reminder at the cpbeef.com.
Hey, that's the official, right?
They are the official high school beef of high school sports. The official beef of
Nice.
high school sports on News Channel Nebraska, and our starting lineup sponsor. So
Pretty cool.
really like those
Yeah.
guys, and I think we talked about it. They sent us all some steak and some
Yep.
hamburger that all of our announcers get a sample, and we get to talk about it every broadcast about how awesome it is. So
And you have not been disappointed.
it even led to Andy threatening to punch me during one of our endorsements
There you
on
go.
the air.
Thought he was threatening on putting ketchup on one of the steaks.
Ooh, yeah,
ho,
you
ho.
probably
I
did
said,
deserve.
no,
I-
he projected.
I
He
said,
said, "I'm a Mahomes fan. You probably would you put ketchup on your steak?" And I said, "Of course not, Andy. I would not put ketchup on my steak."
you were alluding to it, and I said, I will open hand slap you.
No ketchup, but
No ketchup.
Heinz 57 maybe.
Maybe,
There you go.
Maybe a
Little butter,
Maybe a
little
little
butter.
ranch.
Yeah.
It's good meat. So
But the
What's the-
guys
Yeah,
gave us
so-
a code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so cpbeef.com. The code is FarmFocused25. Focused spelled FOCUSED. That's going to get you 25% off their website, cpbeef.com. That's the certified Piedmontese beef.
there you go.
Yes, it is.
And it's something
150 or
special.
more, free
Yeah.
shipping.
It's
Yep.
different. The fact is, it's different.
Yeah, it's a lean cut of beef.
Yeah.
It's something different.
Yep, it's different. And we we just got done recording with them earlier, so we're definitely looking forward to trying it in our home,
Yeah.
our own home as
Can't
well.
wait.
So, yep. And then last thing, wherever you are listening, especially on Apple Podcasts, you can go in and do a review. On all the rest of them, you can do the ratings, the 5-star ratings. But if you take the time to go ahead and do one of those, shoot me an email, ben@farmfocused.com. Let me know you did that review, and we will send you a shirt or a hat. Just let us know what size you wear.
That's awesome. Yeah, so free swag on that front, but also that really helps the podcast so
It does.
much, because then once those reviews start coming in, that's when these platforms really start to help it out. it's been phenomenal how we've been able to grow without a lot of that help.
Yeah.
But once those start pouring in, it really hits another gear. So any help would be greatly appreciated.
For sure. And we've received a number of reviews so far. It's super cool to see. It's fun to read that people are actually taking the time to listen and they're having a good time with us. So,
right. And it's not just local folks. I mean, we're all over.
It's all over. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great.
It's not just Nebraska, but.
Cool.
All right.
So, Brandon, thanks for coming, man.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Good speaking with you. Sounds like you guys have a lot of fun. Looking forward to listening to some more broadcasts.
Got 3 games this
I
week.
was going to say, we do. A couple of high school games, Thursday night, Friday night football, and college football on Saturday.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Well, if nothing else, let's close it out, huh?
All right. Peace.
Later.
See ya.